From WXXI News, this is Connections. I'm Evan Dawson. Our connection this hour was made with a headline: Money, Hopes, Riding on High Falls Complex. The story that followed detailed the debut of a new multi-venue entertainment complex at High Falls Center. And the goal, wrote Will Astor, was a bold experiment in downtown revitalization. That reporting was from nearly 30 years ago, 1997. Mayor Bill Johnson was overseeing plans for the district, and as Deputy Mayor Jeffrey Carlson told Will Astor, Johnson had, quote, little choice but to mount some effort at High Falls, end quote. The problems the mayor inherited in the district, he said, had three possible solutions: keep pouring money into the existing project, abandon the money-losing effort, or fix it. And the first two, Carlson said, weren't really options at all. So today, the district sits relatively empty, but there is new life coming and a lot happening. Next week at the Genesee Brewhouse, New York State leaders will lead an open house to discuss the designs of the new High Falls State Park. Building that park is expected to begin this fall with the start of a renovation of High Falls Terrace Park, and we will learn more about that later today with reporting from WXXI's Gino Finelli. The developments represent a concerted effort to revitalize this district. I say this, we're sitting in High Falls right now, so what will it take to breathe new life into the neighborhood? The High Falls Business Improvement District, or BID, has been working on that question. And this hour, it's not about the High Falls State Park. That is a very important discussion. We've talked about that. We will continue to do that, and we'll have more reporting, as I said, from WXXI News today and Gino Finelli. This is really a conversation with people who are developing here, who are choosing to do business here, who are sort of putting a bet on the future here, despite everything that's happened in the past. And we're going to talk about what they see in the future. Let me welcome our guest now. John August is with us, president of the High Falls Business Improvement District. He's a real estate developer. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Next to John, let me welcome Todd Clicquennoi, who is a principal of Metro Falls Real Estate and a member of the High Falls BID. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Evan. Great to be here.
Across the table, co-owners of Nightcap Blues Nightclub. Welcome, Rick Caesar. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tyrone Reaves, thank you for being here as well.
We appreciate you.
And so there's a lot happening here with a nightclub. There's a new /old/new coffee shop and bistro that we'll talk about in our second half hour. There's all this talk about a park here. And John August, is it a good time to be in High Falls? I'm not asking you for like an advertising slogan. I'm asking you if you feel like this is really turning.
I've been down here for over 30 years, and I think it's definitely the right time to be down here. We're hardly a vacant area here. Most of our office is filled and fully leased. We are trying to add some entertainment pieces that our people think they need for a quality of life to be able to work and live down here. So we're excited about the future and what the park holds, but even the progress that's been made since the park, before the park was announced.
Is there a short version of the story of why it didn't really work out 30 years ago in your mind?
I think so. I think these were an ambitious civic plan. I was down here when they opened the entertainment district, and being so close to our major entertainment district in the East End posed a challenge right off the bat. As the district, people that own and lease down here, having a place where everybody came down to party and leave wasn't so great for the district. It was exciting, but it didn't do much to enhance the business environment down here. So we welcome the change and believe that we've set it up as one of the higher end office areas where people can enjoy every bit of their life down here, from living to entertainment to working, of course.
So too much emphasis on nightlife, you think?
Originally, I think the mayor's office, I believe, came to the conclusion that this market was a little tight to have two entertainment centers this close together. We're less than 2 miles or a mile and a half from the East End. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a flawed strategy, hoping we could do what some of the other major cities have done in creating an entertainment district.
And you mentioned living. I mean, how important is it that people have the option to live in a neighborhood like this?
In the current, Todd and I are both developers, and live work is certainly efficient way to go, a desired way from the residents to save gas, save time, have more home time because they're nearby their office. I think it's a situation, especially since COVID, that's going even more on the rise.
And so Todd hasn't spent as many years as John down here, but obviously you come down here, a dozen years ago, and all the natural assets are here. You have this really remarkable waterfall. A lot of Rochesterians will tell you like they've never been on the Pontarrun Bridge, which always amazes me. You've got a brew house. You've got spaces that look like they're ripe for development. Were you surprised when you first kind of came down here to spend more time? There wasn't more happening here?
Well, excuse me. I came down here many years ago through some associates of mine that were developing. And so I had a chance to really get a taste of High Falls early on when John was here. And I saw the rise and the fall of the entertainment district. Mm-hmm. But, for me, there's some cachet down here that we don't have in a lot of other neighborhoods. Yes, the waterfall, the historic streets, the historic buildings. It's a small cluster. It's a great little neighborhood of interesting places. And as I was looking around the city and making other investments in Monroe County, this started to become home. This felt good to me here. And there was opportunity. And so I found myself rooting in and becoming comfortable and taking on the challenges that High Falls, even a decade ago, 12, 15 years ago, was experiencing. And I just began making some of those challenges my own.
As a real estate developer, what is the infrastructure like here in terms of buildings, convertible space? I mean, obviously we got sort of Kodak across the street, and people are kind of wondering what's in those old buildings.
It's incredibly interesting. So I do own the old centers at High Falls, and that's just a great structure. The big challenge for us was it was primarily open space. It was designed to have thousands of people come there and for venues. And we had to decide how we were going to take all this common area and turn it into rentable square feet. So it was a huge challenge, but we had elevators and staircases and there was all this built-in, really just cool visuals to look at and work with that.
Kind of like Village Gate in a way?
Sort of. Yeah, sort of. We ended up putting some apartments in the centers at High Falls. We've got two really grand, they could almost be condos, but they're apartments. Luckily had the same people living there since we built them. I love them. Got patios. You can see the waterfall. We'd love to put a few more units there. I'm waiting to see how High Falls sort of develops the speed of it, but we've got plans for maybe 3 or 4 other apartments that we could build in that building. But we've also found smaller Rochester-based businesses that have taken hold there. And they're primarily, I would say they're more artistic and they're more creative. That's the companies that seem to find this space. If you go over to 4 Commercial Street where we are, we've got 6 floors, probably like John, where we've taken on more of a professional approach. And those floors lend themselves to just first of all, there's just great space, great views, but we have architects, engineers, computer companies.
And so in a moment, we're going to talk to the guys from Nightcap Blues Nightclub about their decision to go to work here. But when you talk to people who are thinking about, maybe I want to buy or rent one of the units that has a patio that looks at the falls. Maybe I want to live there. What are the pieces of life that people are telling you they need to decide to actually live in it?
So I think living downtown, what we lack is outdoor space.
Outdoor space.
Coming to High Falls, we have the potential to create outdoor space. Just don't have that in other buildings. And they have other features, but I think High Falls has the opportunity to provide great outdoor space for people, great walking space for people.
It's certainly a very walkable district. It's interesting because, State and Lake becomes, I live up Lake. It was a little bit of a drag strip, but when you're down in High Falls, you don't really feel that. It feels very separated and very insulated from that. And it is very walkable. The buildings are, it's not cookie cutter at all. It's visually appealing. And in the second half hour, we'll talk about, sort of a coffee shop coming back, and it's more than a coffee shop, what they're doing at Fina's. But I have to imagine it's very important for neighborhoods to have a place you can go in the day or in the morning and get a cup of coffee.
Incredibly important. I was thrilled that John brought Fina's back. It's incredibly important.
John, you're getting the credit for this here.
I don't know if I deserve it, but Fina loved the area, and when she was away from it, I think she pined to get back here, and we're thrilled to have her because she's a common face and a good home, well-run restaurant.
Well, who gets the credit for getting Rick and Tyrone to come in here? Is that you, John?
I have to think back. On my real estate broker, I'll give my son some credit for that too, I guess.
So, gentlemen here, you are the co-owners of Nightcap Blues Nightclub. First of all, situate it for our listeners. Where are you located?
We're located at 233 Mill Street.
And get right on that microphone for me.
Right in the High Falls district.
When did you open? When do you open?
Our goal is to open right around mid-June. So
By mid-June.
By mid-June.
Okay.
Of 2026.
You're on track.
We're on track.
Okay. You know some of the history, and you know what this district has maybe in front of it with the High Falls State Park and a lot of people kind of putting a lot of work into the investment. But you also know that decades ago, as we talked about, it didn't really work out as an entertainment district. So tell me, I'll start with you, Tyrone, and then we'll talk to Rick here. Let me get your take about why you think this might be different this time.
I'm not sure if I have a why it might be different. I think when you go back and you look at some of the lessons learned, you look at the opportunities, you look at the area is prime. The things that they're doing, obviously, with the inner loop, more housing, more people. And the more people you bring here and the more housing, you have to have amenities in order to attract people to keep them wanting to stay in your metropolitan area. So I think today we're probably better equipped than we were 30 years ago, simply because there are more people that live downtown. I think you're going to get far more investment, not just from the state, but I think you're going to get far more private investment as well. And what do we do collectively? Business is weird, right? From a business standpoint, in order for a business to survive, it has to be profitable. But in order for a community to survive, we have to be collaborative. So now how do we work with all the other businesses in the region, in the area, to be more collaborative and less competitive, to kind of see if we can work and pull some synergies together to kind of make it a little more successful this time? I think the conditions are right for that.
I think that's actually a really wise way to look at it, because it's one thing to say, I think I've got a great idea for a great concept for a business, and then maybe I've got the space. But then if you don't do the work to say, do we have infrastructure for housing? Will people live in that space? Are there things to do during the day? Are there things that will pull people out at night besides what we are doing? Will there be foot traffic? All of those things have to kind of come together here. And I'm not saying that the people involved 30 years ago didn't think about it. I'm sure it's hard. But it sounds like you believe that those things can be there this time.
I think those things can be there. And I also think Mayor Johnson also had a great idea when I don't know if you remember, when he had the local transfer U-Line bus that would come around and go from business to business and travel throughout the community. I think that is also another opportunity. I think we can sell that. I think we can get businesses to come together and actually put dollars in there to help fund that. I know I would contribute to helping fund that if we could get businesses going, vehicles going to business, to parking garages, parking ramps, so it'll make it a lot easier for, tenants as well as patrons to be able to go and support those businesses.
Rick, what sold you on coming down here?
I think the idea of having something different in the area, the blues and jazz, combined with High Falls area, I think was the main thing. And the space that they have provided for us was like perfect, from what we were looking to do. Either stage, seating, everything was like perfect.
Well, can you describe a little bit what you're going to do with this jazz nightclub? What the vibe's going to be? When you're going to be open?
Well, we're hoping to have a couple soft openings before the June date. Live music, good drinks,
Opening nightly at what time? What time will you open your doors every night?
I think we set at 4 o'clock.
4
p.m.
4 o'clock in the afternoon.
4 p.m. in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And then I think we go to 11:30.
Yeah, 11:30, 12.
Rochester's an early town, It's like we like to go to bed early. Maybe you can keep people out later.
Well, what I'm hoping is that's why we have the young guy. For me, 11:30, I'm ready to go home and go to bed. Right. My goal is he'll be willing to stay up a little bit longer.
I'll be up.
Yeah, he'll be up.
So, what was in that space, John August, before?
We've had that as office space. It was a bar back when, and coincidentally, Fina and her husband ran a bar there before they opened Fina's Cafe. So we've had some experience with it. Those were generally geared at a younger crowd, a later crowd. We're thrilled in the district that they've set a closing time of midnight. We always told our children not much happens good after 1 a.m. And I've lived it down here as this was an entertainment. So we're thrilled with the layout, what they're doing. I know our young employees in our building, Labella being our biggest tenant, are thrilled that there's a place to get a little bite to eat and a quiet drink at the end of the day.
Can I ask all of you how important High Falls State Park is for the future? I mean, does that factor into how much does that factor into what you're doing, John?
I think it factors in well for us from a rental standpoint. We think once people get down here, they'll see how wonderful it is to be able to walk in the park. And that is only images now, and I think that will continue to ramp up. But I think it's great for the area, and those of us that have been with the park know it's one of their most amazing pieces of property they've had to work with, the state park. So we're expecting big things.
What do you think, Todd?
Well, like John said, we are expecting big things. I think conceptually, it's really going to provide a backdrop for many different venues down here. And we've got this great real estate on the river that we have not taken advantage of. So here we are. We're going to take advantage of it, finally. And those of us who are positioned in High Falls, we hope to see over this next 5 years to a decade, we hope to see that really mature and come to fruition. So I think it's really important, from a marketing standpoint, for renting space. Again, people like to have, whether it's a resident that's living here or it's a commercial tenant that is here, between the 9 to 5 hours, having a place to go for lunch, for breakfast, for dinner, a venue after work. Now to have a park where you can, whether it's hold an event, just look out your window and see it. Right? I think the influx of people that we're planning to have down here, just more exposure for High Falls.
That matter to you guys? I mean, did the High Falls State Park help at all?
I think it helps, absolutely. But I'm going to answer it from a different perspective. Yeah. I'm a Rochesterian, so I'm a native. And when you start looking at the tourism, you start looking at the things that can attract people to Rochester, I think that park's going to be phenomenal. From an overall perspective, anything that we could do to get a little more attention in Rochester and create an environment where people want to come live here as opposed to go live somewhere else. We always talk about the negative of the weather and other things, but it'd be nice to see some good positive things that when people go down and see that park when it's all developed, I mean, that to me, I think is going to be a huge attraction for people to want to stay in the downtown area. So from that perspective, I'm thinking it's going to be a great, great, great thing for our overall community. For business standpoint, anytime you can get foot traffic, that's always going to be great. So hopefully it'll generate a lot of that.
Okay, what do you think, Rick?
Same foot traffic, just good vibes and everything. I think that attracts people.
And let me also just ask briefly here. I'm curious to know, John, when we talk about 30 years ago, it was a lot of government investment. This time around, obviously the state will invest and there will be local investment in the park. How do you see the relationship between city government now and your district? And is that positive? Are you seeing investment that you want to see? What's going on?
I think we're at a high point in cooperation with the city in running our bid. We have 3 very capable, engaged city employees that help us with this bid, and that has been a great help to us. Just on the last point you brought up, I think Todd and I in the office market here, there's a ton of office around the city vacant that having an opportunity to have a unique situation where you're different from others really provides a nice opportunity for us as developers to distinguish ourselves and try to attract a different view from the tenant, what they're looking for. So we're very optimistic.
Let me grab a phone call from Barbara in Brighton, who has a question. Hey, Barbara, go ahead.
Hi there. I just wanted to say to the gentleman, you're wrong about this being a quiet town. I complain all the time that, I get out of the RPO 10, 15, and this wussy town doesn't have any place to go to get a decent drink, and so I'm delighted if you're going to be open till midnight. And I've talked to a lot of other older citizens, let's say, who feel the same way, and particularly if it's a safe and pleasant environment and where I'm not going to feel like the only person over 25. So, I'm delighted to hear that there's going to be something else. I love the places that are developing on State Street. Of course, Avino is open till 10:30. But Vonnie's is wonderful because they're open till midnight. So, don't hesitate. Just because you two are old farts doesn't mean the rest of us are.
Barbara, as a semi-regular, I did not expect Barbara to be the night owl of the group there, but...
Tyrone, we have to stay up a little later.
Absolutely. We'll stay up a little bit later.
Listen too much.
It sounds like you think you've got the right mix and the right sort of time frame, though. Because, Barbara, I'm with you. You want that late drink sometimes. It's not a huge critical mass in the city that will do that. There's some, maybe more over time. But 11:30
well, at
midnight.
least we hope we have the right mix. But the one thing I can guarantee you is if it's not working, we're not going to continue to do something that doesn't work. We'll try something different. That's one of the goals. We chose that venue to get a more mature crowd, mature audience. Again, young people out there, not that we're excluding you. We're not doing that at all. But we definitely want to make sure it's a safe, good, healthy, clean environment where you can just come have a good time, live music. We're going to try to do some things to honor some of our historic people, Joe Beard, the blues. When you start thinking about Chuck, Gap Mangione, I mean, those guys are Rochester legends, right? I mean, and to create an environment that they would be appreciative of is kind of our goal.
Maybe make it a modern Pithod. Why not? I mean, like this town had one of the great jazz clubs in the country for a while, and Urban Renewal pushed it out, so it's being inducted into the Rochester Music Hall of Fame this year, the Pithod Club, so the Pithod Room. So why not? I mean, I think
would be nice.
People would love to see it.
That would be nice.
I have a note from Lisa Barron at Greentopia, who of course has been working in the area for a long time. And Lisa sends the following. She says, safety continues to be a main concern, which helped inform the bid's recent request to City Council to update the bid plan to include public safety, signage, cameras, and lighting. The update received council approval. The signage is particularly important on the Pontarren Bridge. The bid recognizes the need for a sign containing a suicide hotline. Such a sign does not currently exist. What do you think of that, John August?
I think the city has an initiative that addresses suicide, and we'll work with them. We do know the bridge has probably more instances, one of the highest incidence rates in Rochester. So anything we can do, I think, to try to make people consider if there's another option is in our best interest.
Okay. And in general, any growing district needs to have a vibe of that people can be safe on foot, want to be at a place no matter the time of day or night. You guys pretty confident about you'll be able to provide that, John?
We are. We were restricted. It's just this upcoming fiscal year that we're able to focus on security. It was not one of the original thoughts of needs for the bid to carry out. We did a marketing questionnaire to the people that live and visit and work down here in High Falls. Last year had 300 responses. Security ranked very high, and that's kind of dictating our strategic plan for the future, how we're going to adapt to the park coming to our district.
Okay, well, here's a new business coming in. Rick and Tyrone, are you guys pretty confident in that aspect?
I am. I mean, I think we chose to invest here because we think it's going to be extremely safe. But I also have confidence in our chief of police. I have confidence in Sheriff Baxter, our county executive Adam Bello, as well as our mayor. I think they all want to achieve the same goal as well, and I personally believe we will be able to do that.
I second that.
Yeah.
Good point.
I mean, nobody wants a place that doesn't feel. I mean, I certainly understand that. Shirley in High Falls next on the phone. Hey, Shirley, go ahead.
Hi. It's so interesting to listen to your conversations from a business point of view. I know that bringing people down because of the state park will be very exciting, but I worry about the evening hours when the state park is closed, and will there be a lot of activity, maybe illegal activity, affecting the people who live here during the day and night. I also am interested in bringing back the visitor center because I think that was a real asset to High Falls. And I think it was, what's her name, Winslow, was a great advocate for the whole area. And I appreciated all of that.
Shirley, what do you
So,
mean by
if you could
illegal
address-
activity? What kind of concerns do you have about that?
Well, I think, people come in at night here without the state park. Young children, young teenagers, and young adults, they hang out. They might play loud music. They might climb on the buildings. They're interested in getting closer to the river. So and there's also in the parking garages a lot of cars kind of used to be and maybe sometimes still racing around the parking garage when the gates are up.
And you live in the area
And that
here?
affects.
Is that right?
I live in the Parazin building that Todd Clicquennoi manages.
Okay. So, Shirley, thank you. I'll let our guests weigh in on that. One thing that comes to mind for me is if people are kind of coming and hanging around after hours, teenagers, young adults, it's usually in places that aren't all that well populated. It's usually places where you could feel like, you can kind of go hang out because there's not a lot going on. And if you all of a sudden have a more bustling district, does that become less of a magnet for that? What do you think, John?
I think what you say is known to be true, that activity really is the best counter to criminal activity. It's quiet at night. I think when the business people go home, I think these additions, the park, but most importantly, the activities here at night will help that.
Okay. Todd, are you concerned about anything Shirley brought up there?
Yeah, Shirley's accurate. They're like every neighborhood in Rochester. It has its challenges, especially after hours, and so Shirley's accurate with that. We have in the last, let's just say post-COVID, right? I think we've seen the most dramatic change in our city, where businesses are closing earlier, people are working from home, so you just don't get that density in a neighborhood that we used to have, and so. We have worked hard to try to make High Falls more of a 24/7 neighborhood. So when the people leave to go home at night from their job, we have a new group of people that move in because they're coming home from their job. So I would love to see more of that, right? Having a club that's open in the neighborhood after hours means there's going to be people, and there's going to be security, and there's going to be, most likely just because people around, there'll be police presence. We have a great working relationship with the city right now. They're listening to us. And we're not a very big district. And because of that, I have a lot of confidence in, strategically focusing on 2 or 3 issues that we believe are paramount here that cause the most trouble. And I believe that we can zero, and we have been, it's not like we need to, we have been zeroing in on those issues and, coming up with common sense solutions to them. So, Shirley's accurate. Shirley does live here. She's been a resident of mine for as long as we've been here. She's wonderful, and she's the kind of people. She's a concerned citizen that lives here. She's retired and she's around, so she sees things. And so we certainly, she's got a voice here, which is great. You'll see Shirley out and around and picking up and gardening, and need about 20 more people like that.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Right?
Shirley, thank you very much for that phone call. And after we take our brief break here, we got to say goodbye to Tyrone Reaves because he's going to vacate the seat. Fina's coming in here. Fina's is, to me, it's a place to get coffee, to get great food, and it closed around the pandemic time, and it's back open, and Fina herself is going to be here. Tyrone, it's been great meeting you.
Yep, thank you.
And feel free to come back in the summer and tell us how things are going with Nightcap Blues Nightclub. Now, Rick Caesar's going to hang around and keep talking to us about plans here. And we have John August and Todd Clicquennoi, they're in real estate development. They're part of the BID, the Business Improvement District in High Falls. We're talking about what makes a neighborhood and a district thrive, what makes it work. And in a part of the city where there's been a lot of efforts over the years and not as much success, is this next wave going to work? We'll come right back and continue the conversation on Connections. This is Connections. I'm Evan Dawson. One of the first things I did when I started hosting Connections back in 2014 was go with my colleagues down to Fina's, down in the old button factory, isn't it? It's a really awesome building. It's a great example of what a district, a community, a neighborhood can do when there's a change in employment, or you've got old factories or old buildings that maybe need new ideas in it. And there was Fina's, and we used to go there all the time. And then around the pandemic, there was a lot of closure in a lot of places in this country, and Fina's ended up being one of them. And lo and behold, recently we heard that Fina herself was coming back, and Fina Burroni is in the studio with us now. I joked, I said, Fina has a last name. Producer Megan Mack, you told me she was like Madonna. She just had one name. She's just Fina. But Fina Burroni, welcome to the studio here.
Thank you so much for having me.
And you're open until 2, and you're still open, so thank you for popping over during open hours.
You're welcome.
You're not technically called Fina's anymore?
We're not. No, we really wanted to highlight High Falls and all that's happening here. So we decided to go with the High Falls Bistro.
High Falls Bistro is the name of it. Open in the mornings until 2 o'clock every afternoon.
Yes, 7:30 a.m. We were going to open at 8, but we feel that 7:30 is a little bit nicer for all of our guests that are coming through. Folks are coming in a little bit earlier in the morning. We want to catch them before they stop at their drive-through coffee place. So they don't have to stop there. They can just come to us. And we're open till 2 o'clock. Right now, those hours might change in the summer, maybe extend a little bit as folks come back to work.
And so it is an old button factory you're in, right? It's a cool space.
Very.
And there's some things happening in that building besides the High Falls Bistro, right?
Yes, exciting things happening.
Yeah, so it's an example when a district has to sort of reinvent. But you didn't have to come back here. So you first came into High Falls with Fina's. The original iteration started when?
2011.
2011. And then pandemic did you in, is that right?
Yeah, so we were here from 2011. Prior to that, my husband and I started Tribeca Nightclub. So we've been in High Falls since 2006, 2007. And then we had a wonderful opportunity to open up Fina's Cafe in 2011. And that was just wonderful. We loved being a part of the neighborhood. And it was so great just to have all of the different folks. It was such a great meeting place. There was a lot going on in High Falls at the time.
Yeah, and then the pandemic hits, and take me through what that decision was like for you.
So the pandemic was tough, obviously. It was scary. We weren't sure what was going on. And yet we thought, it'll be 2 weeks. We'll be back.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it wasn't 2 weeks. It was a lot longer. We had to let our staff go. And on the personal side, my mom had been diagnosed with dementia. And being home allowed me to kind of see just where she was in that. It was a little bit farther advanced than I thought. So I had the opportunity. I made the call to not reopen. And I decided to stay home and take care of her as long as I could.
And when did it become a possibility of coming back? Because we should mention, Happy Gut Sanctuary was there and really did a lovely job. Nice folks, and I don't know where they're going or what they're doing. I wish them well. Nobody who works down in this district likes to see anything closed, especially if it's a coffee shop or a place where you can get lunch. But when did you know you wanted to be back here?
So we got a wonderful phone call right before the holidays, kind of like a Christmas miracle. And John August said, hey, your little shop is going to be available again. Are you interested? I had taken a job. I was working remotely from home, and I had just been laid off. So it was kind of serendipitous.
Okay.
And we kind of talked about it. We said, let's get through the holidays. And we came and looked at the space, and it was like coming home.
And so you're back here, and when I would park in the High Falls garage for work, before the pandemic, if I wasn't here at a certain time, if I was a little late, I'd have to go all the way to the top of the open air floor, and it was jammed. And then the pandemic hits, and it's never gone back to full. Mm-hmm. That's like a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot of downtown Rochester, right through the heart of the city. There's office buildings that are honeycombed now. Every city in the country is trying to figure out, what are we doing with these old offices? Can we convince people to come back? Can some become housing? Are they converted? I mean, it's not an easy picture. For you in this neighborhood, does it feel different than it did, or does it feel less busy?
So it does feel different. And neighborhoods go through cycles, right? All neighborhoods go through cycles. I feel like High Falls is more of a neighborhood now than ever before. There's still businesses here, and yes, folks are on different schedules, but there's people living here. I've been here on the Saturdays, getting us ready to open, and I see folks walking around with their pets, people visiting. They're so excited about the park that's coming. There's people that have lived in Rochester that have never been to High Falls. So I'm not going to lie, a lot of our friends and family were like, are you crazy? And so we said, well, kind of, but you have to take a leap of faith, right? I kind of feel like it's a little bit of a food desert. There isn't a lot for folks
I agree.
to have. And so you could look at the negative, or you could say, hey, this is an opportunity for us to be part of the neighborhood again and get folks to come back to this lovely place that we call home.
I think that's really well said. And I cannot think of a really thriving, neighborhood that's kind of got everything that it wants and will tell you we've got everything, but we don't have a coffee shop. I mean, we need our third places. People need places that aren't work, that aren't home, that you can go and feel comfortable. You can sit down, you can have a cup of coffee, you can read, you can get work done, you can meet people. And so, I mean, in many ways, I think you fill that at a place that was perhaps lacking it.
We're hoping to. We provide free Wi-Fi. We understand that folks, when we were here before, people would come into High Falls, come to work, and it was a mass exodus. We couldn't get them to stay, not with great desserts, not with great food. They were going home. So now folks are living here. And, if you're working from home, why? Come to the cafe. Come and work for a few hours, have a bite to eat, hang out. It's a different feel than it was before. Before it was to go. Everybody was just in and out, and they were so quick to leave. Now we find folks are walking in, spending a little time, ordering food, ordering another coffee, maybe taking some food home for later. So it's a whole different feel, for sure.
What percentage of the people who come in now, and I know you haven't been reopened
It's only been
for that
2
long.
weeks, yeah.
Only been a couple weeks. But how many familiar faces do you end up seeing?
So many familiar faces. It's so wonderful. But there's a lot of new faces, folks, that really, didn't know about us before and are so excited to be here. It's heartwarming to me to know that we made such an impact when we were here before. We got to know everybody's name and remembered their order and made sure that, we said hello no matter what. We just wanted to make sure that it was a place that you wanted to come back to, because work is hard, life is hard. Coffee shouldn't be.
You also you make a pastry.
Yes.
That's the size of an aircraft carrier.
Okay, well.
It's like a strawberry cream cheese. It's one of the best things I've ever had.
Yes.
But it's the size of it. My doctor would like you to make a smaller version.
Well, we can try. Maybe we can cut it in half for you.
Listen, I do want to ask you a little bit about the idea that this is a district that's getting what it needs from the city. Because if you go back to pandemic times, anybody can go back now and say, were we closed for too long? Was there not enough support? What decisions people would like to have back? That's not what this is about. I'm curious to know, for you now as a small business owner who's back in that space, what do you need to feel supported, and do you have it?
Well, High Falls is reinventing itself, right? And I think for us to be part of its success, we have to reinvent ourselves too. We didn't have online ordering prior. We will be adding that. We'll be reaching out, hopefully beyond High Falls. We understand that folks order food all the time. That wasn't the case before. So that's now kind of the normal way of doing business. If you want to succeed in this atmosphere, you have to roll with it. Whether you like it or not. We're embracing it. So we're excited about folks ordering our food that maybe don't ever come to High Falls. It gives us an opportunity to reach beyond. And maybe if they try the food, they'll venture and come eat, their croissant by the falls, where can you go and have lunch and look at waterfalls?
I know.
Come on, it's pretty awesome.
It's true. Are you going to have like a mobile pickup station?
Yes. So folks will be able to come in. We're hoping to have one spot right in front of our restaurant where they can just pull up, text us from their car.
You
and
just
we'll
looked across the table like, guys, are we getting the spot?
We need
Did
one
I see
spot.
the subtext correctly?
We like to collaborate.
I saw that.
We need one spot, right? We
Okay.
have to make it easy for folks to be able to get in and get out.
Yeah, for sure. I totally understand that. And I was thinking about that recently because there's a lot of great coffee shops in the city of Rochester. And there are times where if I'm flying somewhere and I'm desperate for an afternoon coffee and I don't know how to order in advance at these places, I may use a Starbucks app, and then I feel like what have I done? But I also get it. I get why you feel like even if we didn't do this before, the pandemic changed so much about the way we live. And one of them is just this idea of doing things in mobile fashion, even when we could stop and stay. So you probably would like people to stop and sit down and
I'd love that.
stay.
I would love for them to come and stay.
But you're not going to push into the wind and say we're never embracing change here.
No, we have to. If, like I said, to be successful now in the food industry, we have to reach out in all of these different avenues, whether it's catering, weekly meals that you might want to pick up and take home and put in your freezer, daily things that you need to pick up, ordering that coffee so you don't have to stop at Starbucks. We're going to try to bring some events to the restaurant so that folks maybe can come on a game night. Or we can tie in, we're thinking about doing a cookbook club, which would be so much fun. During the pandemic, I was teaching cooking classes. So we love to read books and we love to cook. So we'll put the two things together and try to get folks to come and see the falls, come and see our neighborhood, and hopefully stay.
I want to ask you and Rick Caesar sitting next to you, who is the co-owner and manager of Nightcap Blues Nightclub. Is there anything on the list of small business regulation that you're either good with or you would like? The reason I ask is because when the pandemic hit, it was really interesting to see how quickly businesses could or could not move outside. Could you have outside tables? Could you have canopies? Were you allowed to do that? Could you convert? There were some local restaurants that wanted to convert part of their parking lot into outdoor seating space, and they were told, you have to get permits for that, and I think a lot of people tried to bend and make it work pretty quickly, but it just opened your eyes to all the little things that may make things either very helpful or very unhelpful. So I don't know. Do you have a list, or are you pretty good with how the city is managing or sort of governing?
We're familiar with the neighborhood and kind of the restrictions that come with being downtown. We're in a historical district besides, so there's some rules we have to follow, right? And
you don't find them unreasonable?
I'd love to put tables on the sidewalk. There's not much sidewalk,
nice.
so there's nowhere to go, right? That makes it tough. So
Right.
it'd be nice if they would let us go, outside of our walls. I know that's how we feel about it, but we also understand there's not much sidewalk to sit at. So the liquor license would be great to get that and expedite that process. That's not City of Rochester, that's New York State, but the process is what it is.
Which you are pursuing?
We are,
Fina?
yes.
Okay. All right. So those are just a short list there. What about you, Rick? Anything stand out?
The same. I think we discussed it in the past, but I think that's something that we'll talk about a little later. Once we get open, get everybody, get welcomed into the community, I think we'll be fine. Then we'll start branching out.
And again, Rick and his team, they're trying to start in mid-June with the club there, and you'll have a liquor license?
Correct. We're working on that currently, so we have to have everything situated by next week.
Okay.
So hopefully we ready to open before that June date.
And John August, how about that parking spot? What do you think?
I think we could expand the sidewalk. There's a will, there's a way. But we do whatever we could to support Fina. And as much as she remembers people, everybody remembers Fina when they walk in. Even if they didn't know her, they knew the name Fina. You're Fina. So she's a recognizable figure. We're thrilled to have her down here.
Let me ask Todd Clicquennoi, who's also a developer and part of the bid here in High Falls. We've been talking this hour about a neighborhood sort of revitalization efforts, and there have been different iterations of it over the years here, some more successful than others and a lot of struggle. But now there's a lot happening. High Falls State Park will be here. You'll have more reporting from my colleague Gino Finelli on that later today, and I'm sure we'll be talking about the park itself many times on this program. But now we're talking about sort of the different pieces and blocks: housing, business development, coffee shops, nightclubs, bistros, all of those things. And it's a district that's not large per se, but they need these pieces, and they're trying to put them together and move forward here. And Todd, do you feel like that there could be more investment from the government side of things, or are you feeling pretty good about government relationship?
I feel good about the government relationship. That's a great question. It takes the private sector, I think, to really make things sustainable. And I think that's what we've all struggled with in many of these neighborhoods is, the public money comes in and a decade later the public money's gone and the neighborhood goes away with it, right? All the support goes away. So the more private money that we can get, and people like Fina and like this jazz club or this blues club find a way to make it work on their own without the government support, the longevity's there. That's what we need. 30 years ago, we didn't have any housing here at all. Now we've got people living here. Mm-hmm. It's a major difference to have people down here. We hope to have more people here. So, but that's not happening, at least at my level, that's not happening with public funding. That's happening with private funding and some ingenuity and trying to find ways to shoehorn an apartment into an interesting place and bring another family here. So
what do you not have right now that you would love?
parking.
More parking.
But that's indicative of most neighborhoods. We're lucky. We do have parking. We do have some, but I would love to have more parking. The parking garage is going to be, run by a private developer at this point. I'm hoping that that's positive. I'm hoping that by doing that, we've got the accessibility of more, private, public parking for private people just to come in, pay, stay. Right, and you guys will have that available to you. I mean, it's going to be critical, right? It's critical to us.
Yeah, Rick, do you feel like if people can get to you once you open in June with parking and however they're getting to you?
I think that was one of our big questions is parking. Hopefully, the garage is the answer, but I know they have street parking. Just hoping that it works out.
You're talking about a different garage than the High Falls garage?
High Falls garage.
You're talking about the High Falls garage. Okay. All right. So you feel like a little bit of an open question on that one, or you feel?
Yeah, it's tough to say. Just being new into the space. Not sure how you guys dealt with it back in the day, but yeah, it's still an open question.
Well, and Fina, how do you feel in general about parking?
Parking has always been a concern in High Falls. We joke we used to have a budget for all the parking tickets.
Oh no!
That our staff and some of our clients, would sometimes get, but it's been a little bit more relaxed this time around, which is awesome to see. And nights and weekends when hopefully we'll be busiest, right. It's easier to get down here. There's a lot less traffic, so
okay,
that's our goal.
John, what does this district not have that it needs?
I think more residential would be helpful. I think entertainment and a recreational component, which I think we're getting with these additions, and the potential park. I would like to say we were talking about government subsidies and what happens. This district was originally one of 5 or 6 that was funded by the city to the tune of $20,000 a year. And the city stepped up and said, we can't do this anymore. We're inviting you and advising you to create a bid to handle this. We're the only ones that did it, just so the folks know. We're very proud of our bid. The owners are taxed $25,000 a year, and that is spent without any professional fees, any overhead and profit, all volunteer work. And most interestingly, contrary to what people think, not one penny of those assessments were pushed down to the tenants. So there's this connotation that bids are bad. I think High Falls can demonstrate what we can do with our own money, how to improve the district to what we need, and I think it's a good case and study of how we can move on after government support.
You seem to be reacting to some of what the public debate about a downtown bid in recent years. Were you surprised at the tenor of that debate?
I was surprised only because it had great momentum through the city, and then in the 2 years that it was developed, took a long time to bring back to a resolution. They had lost support at city council, and we were surprised. I think it was a mistake for the city in an effort to try to keep the city core vibrant and helpful. But we learned from that, and we're proud of our bid and continue to do what we do.
If we're sitting here in 10 years talking about how another iteration of a revitalization effort didn't work, what would be the reason, John?
If the park had a negative influence on the area, which we don't anticipate it will, we're very thrilled that the park police will be monitoring that and help with the control down there in addition to the city police. So we'll have good coverage. I think it's that or an overall condition. I think we're primed with reasonable rents in a better than normal environment, and I think we're posed well to succeed in the future.
Well, Adam writes to say we need more jazz in the city. It's a jazz city. There you go, Rick. Great place for jazz. And Patrick writes in to say he hates pre or mobile orders, that he feels like it's just cutting in line. But listen, Patrick, Fina's not saying like she loves it. She's saying she gets it. There's a difference. You don't have to love it. It's where the world has gone. That's a whole separate conversation we'll have someday. All the little norms, big to small. All the amount of people who wear pajamas in public. That's a pandemic thing. I mean, like, look. We can go on all day about this, but Patrick, Fina's just saying she gets it, and what she wants is she wants you to come down there and spend your business dollars there, even if you don't have a lot of time, and she will embrace it even if you can't sit down. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
That's a business decision. So,
That's
listen,
absolutely
I
right.
love sitting down and breaking bread together, and I wish I had more time to do it too, but I also understand why businesses are making the decisions they are. I want to thank our guests for an outstanding hour of conversation because I see a lot of really good feedback from people, not only those like Shirley who live in the area, but those who are very curious about what's going to be around the High Falls State Park. We'll cover the park. We'll keep doing that. But then the question is what develops around it? And you're starting to see that. So that's why we had this conversation. And thanks to John August, president of the High Falls Business Improvement District. Thank you for being here this hour.
Thank you for having us.
Todd Clicquennoi, who is also a member of the BID and principal of Metro Falls Real Estate. Thank you for being
Thanks,
here.
Evan.
Our thanks to Tyrone and Rick from Nightcap Blues Nightclub. Good luck to you guys.
Yep, thank you.
Right here in the neighborhood, a jazz club opening in mid-June, you said.
Mid-June.
Come back sometime. We'll talk more about how it's going.
Will do.
Fina Burroni is the owner of the High Falls Bistro. Back in town. Don't call to come back. Call to come back. Well, welcome back. It's great to have you back.
It's great to be home.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you, Fina. And from all of us at Connections, thanks for finding us wherever you're finding us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We're back with you tomorrow on member-supported public media.
This program is a production of WXXI Public Radio. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of this station, its staff, management, or underwriters. The broadcast is meant for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or use in another medium without expressed written consent of WXXI is strictly prohibited. Connections with Evan Dawson is available as a podcast. Just click on the Connections link at WXXInews.org.